Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, what's going on tonight?
Yeah, we're having some issues with the vehicle.
You're having some issues with the vehicle?
Yeah, it won't start up.
It won't start up? What's wrong with it?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Yep.
Want to like step over here so like these people can get around you?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right over here. No, you don't have to go into the ditch. You can just hang out over here.
The deputy observed his poor balance, slurred speech, and bloodshot eyes.
Well, what happened? Did it stall out at the intersection or something?
Yeah, for sure. It wouldn't go.
It wouldn't go?
Yeah. Like I put my blinker on, I tried to go, wouldn't go.
Are you talking to these people, or do you know these people, or no?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. How much you gonna drink tonight?
I've had 1 or 2 drinks.
Okay. I tell you're slurring your speech, you're stumbling a little bit.
Yep.
You think you're safe to drive tonight?
I do.
Okay.
I just don't know what the fuck is going on with the vehicle.
Hey, you mind if I try starting it up?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, not sure. Do you have a preference for a tow? Because it can't just sit here in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I just don't know what the fuck happened to it. It's like the vehicle is completely fine.
What happened when you parked here?
Well, I didn't park here. Like, I hit the
Or when
stop
you
sign,
yeah,
and I was
when you
getting ready to
stopped here.
turn, and then I just lost power.
What the fuck is this person doing? Let's go!
Yeah, can I put it in park?
It should be in park, right?
I
But
mean,
you can
it's
throw the
moving right
brake on
now.
it. You can throw the brake on it. Well, there's your problem. There's something wrong with your transmission because it's in park. So your transmission's shot. We'll just roll it back to the side of the shoulder here. Okay, so I'll let you hop in there, and then we can just roll it back there. So take it out, park, use your brake, put your foot in there, so we can get around my car here. Put your foot in.
While the deputy assisted Andrew in pushing the vehicle off the road, he detected an odor of marijuana coming from the car.
And brake, 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 brake. A little bit, let off the brake a little bit, let off the brake a little bit. Brake, brake. How much marijuana's in the car? I smell
No, I don't
weed.
think any weed's in the car.
Shouldn't be any
Like,
weed in there?
I've smoked before, but there shouldn't be any weed in the car.
Okay.
No, there shouldn't be.
Alright, do you have a preference for a tow?
I mean, I'm from La Crosse, so...
From La Crosse?
Yeah.
So you don't have a preference then?
No, just anywhere in La Crosse. You know,
Well,
Dave's breaking alignment, you know.
Well, we're not going to call a La Crosse tow. We can call one of the local ones, and then you can make arrangements to have it taken back to La Crosse.
I just don't know, like... Yeah, whatever you gotta do. Whatever you gotta do.
32 minutes. Alright, man, I'm just going to be hopping it back here. While we wait for a tow, I'll talk to you in a second. Alright, bud? Order of 961 and possible 55. I'll take a second. Are you willing to do a couple field sobriety tests to make sure you're safe to drive tonight?
That's fine.
Alright. Alright, sir, you can hop out. Do you have an ID on you? Or something like that?
Yeah, I do.
We can walk to the front of my car.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're not...
Yeah, these lights are kind of bright.
Yep. Driver is an Andrew R. Olson, last name Ocean Lincoln, Sam Ocean Nora, first name Andrew, Adam Nora, David, Robert, Edward, William, middle name R. Robert, male white. What I want you to do is I want you to put your feet together, put your hands down by your sides. Perfect. Don't grab onto your pant leg, just leave your hands nice and relaxed. And can you see the tip of my finger?
Yes.
This one right here.
Yes.
All right, can you reach out with your right index finger and touch the tip of my finger?
Yes.
All right, what I want you to do is I just want you to follow the tip of my finger with your eyes and only your eyes and not your head. Do you understand?
Yes.
Go up. All right. What time was your first drink at?
Maybe around 10:30.
10:30. And what time was your last drink at?
11:30.
11:30. 1:30. What were you drinking tonight?
Just your beer.
Sorry, what?
Just beer.
Just beer? What kind of beers?
Corona.
Coronas?
Yep.
Bottles or cans?
Bottle.
How many bottles do you have?
2.
2. When was the last time you were at a dentist?
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, so not in the last week?
No, definitely not within the last week.
Do you have GERD?
No.
All right. So what I want you to do is I just want you to step on the fog line right here and turn and face the back of your car. I want you to put your left foot on the fog line, and I want you to put your right foot next to your left foot, heels and toes touching. Perfect. Now what I want you to do is I want you to put your right foot in front of your left foot, heel to toe touching. Nope. Other way around. Right foot in front of your left foot. There you go. And let's get that all the way on the line so both our feet on the line. Perfect. All right, this is and put your hands down by your sides. Don't grab on your pant legs. Excellent. This is the instructional position. Do not leave this position until I tell you to do so. Do you understand?
Yes.
What I want you to do when I tell you to begin and not before is I want you to take a series of 9 heel-to-toe steps down this white line, turn around on the 9th step, and take 9 heel-to-toe steps back along this line. I'm now going to demonstrate the test doing 3 steps. When you do it, you will do 9 steps. 1, 2, 3. Leave that lead foot planted. Turn around using a series of small steps like this and return along that line. 1, 2, 3. So to recap, 9 heel-to-toe steps down, turn around as I instructed, 9 heel-to-toe steps back, hands down by your sides, looking down at your feet, and count out loud. Do you have any questions?
No, but I'm very nervous.
Okay.
Like, I know that I can do this. I know that this performs my sobriety, but this is a very nervous task. Like, knowing that if I fail this, it may mean that I am too intoxicated to drunk. This is a very nerve-wracking test.
I can appreciate that.
My best.
Okay. I've done this a bunch of times. I've done this probably 200 times. I've watched people do this, if not more. All right? Probably 300 close to. So I know how people are going to do on this test, all right? So are you ready?
Yes.
All right, you want to put your right foot in front of your left foot, get back in that original position right there, perfect, and you may begin. And look down at your foot, and count loud.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 to 10 and turn around. Correct?
As instructed, yep.
1, 2, 3,
Hands down by your sides.
5, 6. Sorry, give me a second. 9, 11, 15.
All right, you done? And one last test. We'll step right onto my light here and turn and face me. Perfect. What I want you to do again is I want you to put your feet together, put your hands down by your sides, don't grab onto your pant legs, just leave them nice and relaxed. Perfect. Again, this is the instructional position. Do not leave this position until I tell you to do so. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. What I want you to do when I tell you to begin and not before is I want you to raise either your left foot or your right foot. It's up to you. Approximately 6 inches above the ground. I want you to look down at your foot and count out loud. 1001, 1002, 1003, and so on and so forth until I tell you to stop. At no point during the test are you to put your foot down. If you do put your foot down, pick it back up and continue from where you left off. Do not use your arms for balance. And you may begin. Hands down by your sides. No, just leave them straight down. Yep. And count out loud.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
And you can stop. Last thing I need you to do is give me a sample of your breath to determine if you're impaired by drugs or alcohol. Are you able to do that for me tonight?
Yes, I can.
Andrew agreed to a PBT, which indicated his blood alcohol concentration at 0.152.
You know what the legal limit to operate in Wisconsin is?
That's right.
Yep, you're at a .152. So if you don't place your hands behind your back, you're under arrest for operating while impaired. Hey, easy there. Easy there. What are you doing? Don't tense up on me, buddy. Don't tense up on
When the deputy reached back to grab his handcuffs, Andrew suddenly pulled away and sprinted off.
Don't grab your hands together. Relax your hands. Take it easy. Monroe. Foot pursuit northbound Highway 27.
The deputy located Andrew several times during the foot pursuit, but he continued to ignore commands and run off.
Get out of here right now. .32, 33. He just turned around the house, east side, correction, west side of 27. Black shirt, tan shorts. Hey man, come on here, I'm gonna OC you. Come here. Come here, right now. I'm gonna OC you. Get on the ground. Go back to the car.
About 15 minutes later, he was located again, laying on his stomach in the woods.
Stop right there. 35, I got him.
Moving you, moving you, moving you, moving you.
Don't move. Don't move.
I got you, knee high. You're injured. All right, I got cuffs.
Put your hands behind your back right now.
Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. I got taser. Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. You're gonna get tased. Lay on your stomach. Put your hands behind your back.
Please stop touching
Put your
me
hands
like that.
behind your.
While he actively resisted arrest, Andrew threatened the deputies and made several attempts to grab their gun.
Tase you.
Stop coming to me like that! God, don't you
Touch me twice.
touch me like that!
He's grabbing a hold of my gun.
No, you're being a punt! I was good, you faggot! I'm gonna sue your ass! You let go of me now! Get the up!
Put your hands behind your back.
How the am I gonna do that?
Oh, he's biting me.
Get off of me!
Get off. Stop biting me.
Off of me!
I'm transitioning.
No!
All right. Give me a light. Give me a light so I don't hit us. Stop.
Get off of me.
Put your hands behind your back.
I can't.
God,
You're on
you
my
bit me,
hand.
bro.
You're on my hand!
Put your hands behind your back.
I can't! You're on
Give me your other hand.
I can't!
Give me your other hand.
You're on them.
Stop resisting.
You're on them.
Stop resisting.
You're on them. I'm gonna kill you. I can't. I can't.
Okay, boy, I got one arm right here. God damn it, Kevin. The hell, man?
I'm gonna kill you.
Get your hands together.
Put your hands together. Stop.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Ah, damn it. All right, I'll hold this. You bring it in.
I'm gonna kill you.
God damn it, dude.
I'm gonna kill you. Don't you fucking goddamn me. You deserve to fucking die.
No, he bit me, punched me in the face.
Yeah, because you. Oh, don't even start. You faggot ass bitch.
Yeah.
Got him, ball.
Pretty well, actually.
There we go. Have a good day.
Warning, how much Limburger mac and cheese?
Women like to live in a little bit of the.
By the way, I was right about that one lady. She did make it up. She completely f***ing made up the pizza box story. This was just totally fake. Totally fake. 100% fake tweet. I'm offended today for waiting on Andrew's conviction. Dude, people were saying shit before he was even charged. Her explanation made sense though. No, it didn't. There's a big difference between Romanian authorities saying we've used social media to figure out that he's in the countries back here. There's a big difference between that and saying like, oh, it was the pizza box that let them figure it out. That's not the same. That's not the same. He posted the box on Twitter though. Yeah, he posted full videos of him walking around like in Romanian like outdoor areas and shit on Twitter. He posted a lot of dumb shit on Twitter and on his fucking social media and shit. The idea that it was discovered just because of Greta, that's like fucking revenge porn. Like there was no reason to ever believe that was the case without more evidence. It could have been true. I'm not saying it's impossible to be. It could have been true, but there was no evidence posted. And that like uncredible dipshit on Twitter is certainly not compelling enough evidence to believe it without anything else being posted. It's a good meme though. I mean, if it was true, but
it still looks weird, but he's a lot more handsome than Andrew Tate. Like, between these two right here, I feel like this one's clearly the top G and this one's the bottom G. He's got a jawline and some facial hair and some nice hair. His brother looks like Destiny. Okay, not here. Here he's got kind of like the wavy hair, but apart from the wavy hair, I don't see it. He does have Destiny's body though. He still looks weird.
What? Thanks, I guess. Yeah. I think I do kind of look like that. True. Yeah. Thank you. Sneeko is talking on the Twitter space.
Like conning women into this practice of being, you know, on camera and doing this OnlyFans stuff. And I think he said 3 of the women, when they found out, told him to go F himself, and the other 2 were, you know, a part of it. Then he grew that to like 75 women, but it was basically him pushing the practice of deception, right? So if you're saying that you're swearing to Andrew Tate's character, then do you not see deception as being a character flaw and something that really ruins someone's credibility in terms of, you know, what they say happened, right? Like that is, deception is not like a moral thing to do. Like if you're gonna like deceive these women, you know what I mean? Like I guess like, do you see that as a character flaw in him when he himself admitted to doing that?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. Happy to answer it. So first of all, let's examine that. 3 of the girls told him to F off. That means they were perfectly able to leave. So the incident in question, I believe, was about 10 years ago. So let's be very accurate about what we're pulling up here. It was a long, long time ago before he made his money through other means. And what you're talking about is a number of girls understanding that they were not the only one working for his agency, and at a certain point saying, well, fine then, I don't want to work with you. At which point they were able to leave. I don't see anything unethical with that. I hope I've answered your question clearly.
Is this Tristan or whatever?
Dallas question before we go to Nick.
Yeah,
Dallas, unmute me.
No, I got you. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Alpha.
I think the point that Alpha's trying to get at, which, and I find it kind of frustrating the way some people on the panel have like questioned it, is like we're arguing from like a guilty till proven innocent standpoint. It seems like some people are. And I think some people are just trying to say, look, like there can be other forces at work. I mean, it's one possibility is maybe some of the people within Andrew's team were doing things that he didn't know about. That's totally possible. But again, like we need to see evidence on these things before that happens. And just to the context of the video, I put the video up above.
That was a friend of Tate's.
The blonde girl who's in that video with Andrew Tate, where it looks like he kind of hit her, and she basically spoke out about that. For anybody who hasn't seen that, I think that's important context. And I think it's also important too not to pull in other things that are unrelated to try to form your opinion in his innocence or his guilt, right? Like that we have to stick to the facts and.
No, I think I think what they've doing is kind of discussing his character and trying to kind of use that to analyze the allegations being made. But we'll stick to questions. Nick, do you have a question for Alpha?
Yes, I do. And then anybody else can chime in as well. And I apologize if this has been addressed. I've been on the phone for a hell of a long time. So Andrew Tate, he said several times that they were coming after him months and months and months ago. Did he know that he was being surveilled and was going to end up with these charges? And if so, why did he end up back in Romania? Were they waiting for him to end up back from Dubai? Because I know he spends a lot of time there.
Okay, I don't have a clear-cut answer to that. I do know that Andrew's worldview is such that he is, and he means this in full, like you can say whatever criticisms you want of the man, he feels he does have an important message to put out to the world. And he is aware that that message is anti the current thing. It is anti the current narrative. It's about making the young men of today predominantly have standards in their life, cut out toxic behavior from others, and essentially hold themselves to what we refer to as masculine accountability, be the best version of themselves. One could argue that the current thing is not about masculine empowerment, it's about feminine empowerment. And one could argue that makes sense, being that, for the longest of time, women were somewhat oppressed, right? Whereas
just to be clear, nobody would get mad at Tate. Don't say that bullshit don't say the bullshit that like people don't like Tate because he's telling young men to empower themselves. Bullshit. You could do that and people would not be that mad at you. They're mad at you because of the insanely like misogynistic shit, even if it's just jokes that you say. That's why people are mad at him. It's not because he's talking about male empowerment. That's some bot shit to say that. Come on.
This tweet that was done a few hours ago, do you know who made that tweet? Was it a lawyer or someone that manages the socials?
I'm not aware of
good.
what went down there.
No, his next question is why is he living in Romania?
So
was before Dubai.
I can speak to that. So many men feel that the laws in the Western world are not in their favor, and so if you move to a more traditional country, be it a Muslim country or be it an Orthodox country in Eastern Europe, the laws are more balanced in terms of not getting, as it's known, divorce rate or not having allegations made against you which can lead to your life being ruined even if they're not true.
That's so cringe.
Verifiable examples of this in the Western world. But also, at the end of the day, someone like Andrew is going to enjoy life more outside of the Western world. And I think Romania is an amazing country. All of Eastern Europe is very livable, even though it has some bad stigma in the minds of many Westerners. So the fact that people question why did he move to Romania, I view it as low-key racism. Romania is an amazing place. They are good people, and there's good traditional values. And if as a man you align with traditional values, why wouldn't he live in Romania?
Okay, so for the audience, if you have a question...
The reason people always question why do they live in Romania is because there was a clip from a podcast where they were saying that the laws are more lenient and the police are more relaxed. Romania is a place, and I went there too. I've spent less time with Andrew and Tristan as Alpha, but when I was there, it's a peaceful country. Even though they consider it third world, people are civilized. It's Christian run, and
who considers Romania third world? It's just Eastern Europe.
Problems with the police or that there's.
And there's this whole new thing of generation of people that take their socks and their shoes off on the plane. You got to look at their smelly feet, and then they'll literally stand up and they will walk into a commercial airline bathroom. Yeah, use it and then walk and sit back down again.
That's not right.
Yeah, if I was a dictator, those people would be eliminated.
When did you start shaving your head?
When did I start shaving? Well, I shaved it. I had my first special. I had it shaved.
can do that. But don't you feel you have a responsibility to these powers?
It's cool, babe. Malcolm's been whoring us out to the press.
What brings you here?
Just a brief reminder, we're still amazing, even though we've done very little with our amazingness.
Malcolm, how do you respond to people saying that your powers are nothing but a cheap ripoff of the new Adam Sandler movie?
Oh, well.
But don't you feel like you should be doing something important?
Nah, if Fantastic Four has taught us anything, it's that we don't need to.
What is it about the Fantastic Four that can't catch a break in terms of movies? I mean, granted, the new one hasn't come out yet, but...
Great to meet you.
It's gonna suck.
It really is.
Probably, yeah. Pretty much.
I mean, alright, anything's possible, but if it's anything like this incarnation, you shouldn't be too hopeful. This film is poorly written, poorly executed, and worst of all, there's little to no superheroing in it. They mostly just sit around, be jackasses, and admire how cool their powers are.
So I figure we do the same. You know, just because a multi-million-dollar film did it doesn't mean you should do it.
He's right. We shouldn't just sit here on our fat asses. We should sit here on our fat asses and review the stinker. Oh, Christ. Malcolm, Fantastic Four, now!
In a second.
Hey! Little something for the lady?
Oh.
The film starts off with two scientists named Reed and Ben, played by young Griffith and Michael Chiklis, who wish to get funding to study a cosmic storm that could change the way we look at DNA. Their one problem? They're asking a guy named Doom. Yeah, that's really his name, Victor Von Doom, which translates out to Victor of Doom. I mean, okay, arose by any other name, but that fucking name is Doom!
Same old Reed, always stretching, reaching for the stars.
But hey, don't let his label tip you off. Let the giant menacing statue hiding in the shadows during meetings and the fact that he stole your former girlfriend tip you off. Seriously, his name is Von Doom!
This isn't gonna be a problem.
Oh, not at all. Jessica Alba plays Susan Storm, the director of genetic research. I'm sorry, I couldn't get through that without laughing. I'm surprised I made it that far.
Now sign over a fair percentage of any applications.
Number 75.
25% of $1 billion is enough to keep the lights on, isn't it?
Oh, excuse me. I was just riding in my Bowser's Dungeon elevator courtesy of the not criminal genius who stole my girlfriend. His name is Doom!
As far as crew, I was hoping Ben could pilot the mission.
So, they all have to train to be astronauts. Better get started on those years and years or minutes and minutes of training.
A few days in space. We did great. What's the worst that can happen?
Did everyone just forget that space is space?
Remember my brother Johnny?
But it's okay, as long as they have a determined pilot on their hands. Insert fucking beautiful, obviously not qualified specimen number 5, John, played by Chris Evans.
You meet me at 401 at the top of the mountain. This is yours. That's mine.
I'm sorry, how the fuck does choosing the crew for this work again?
Too ugly.
Too average.
Too bald.
Too wrinkly.
Too normal. Wait, what about these guys? These are the people we need to be getting into space.
But those are just glamour magazines.
They're perfect. Call them immediately.
Right.
Except for this one. It's research.
And by the way, yeah, it is strange that Chris Evans is playing a Marvel superhero when he's also playing one in Captain America. But honestly, I always just assumed this was Loki in disguise. You have to admit, they are pretty similar.
I don't know whether I should be flying or doing Swan Lake in these suits. I mean, who the hell came up with these?
Victor did.
Oh, I'm sure Victor did. Sure he told you it was for advanced breasticulation research.
Wow. Fantastic. Material made from self-regulating unstable molecules.
As a director of genetic research, I'm very insulted you didn't notice my rack. So they go to their space station that, honest to God, is making Austin Powers look credible. As our own Dr. Evil and Seven of Fine are having a moment.
This isn't every man dreams of. Meet a woman he can give the world to.
Wow.
The cloud is accelerating. We've got minutes until it hits, not hours. That storm is deadly. We need to report.
Get a grip, Reed. We didn't come all this way to lose our nerve in the first glitch.
That is to say, you didn't. I apparently came here to blow $1 billion proposal on a woman who doesn't even find the universe interesting. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's a bucket about to be filled with my tears waiting for me.
Threshold in T-minus 9 minutes.
So, what they apparently had the technology to know years in advance was coming, suddenly can only tell them 9 minutes ahead of time that it showed up early. But hey, that billion-dollar technology isn't anything compared to just looking to the fucking left.
I ain't done arranging your flowers yet, egghead.
Ben, turn around.
Oh what, that giant flaming death going wah 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 wah? Yeah, don't know how I missed that. This is our attempt at trying to make sense of our power. We're not buying it either. They get back to Earth, at first only noticing the slightest of differences.
Liking the grandpa look. What?
Oh yeah, side effects may include slight white hair and terrifyingly inhuman stretching. But hey, at least you now look 1/20th closer to how the original character is supposed to look.
How's she doing?
Stable, and her vitals are strong.
Unfortunately, we couldn't do anything about her acting. But they eventually find out that superpowers are starting to emerge, but only during situation-fitting dialogue.
It's nice to be seen. Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you. So are you.
Look at me.
I can't.
Thanks, you're pretty good too.
And he was frozen in ice and thawed out years later. Come on, I'm trying to tie them together somehow. Reed also discovers he can turn his hand into Woody the Cowboy's hand. Boy, these effects did not age well. We discover also that Ben has gone through a really bad transformation, but it's all good because they operate on Ninja Turtle logic. So a trench coat and hat apparently covers it all up.
What the
fuck? It's me. It's still me. It was the accident. Let me explain.
No, don't touch me!
Tabs!
Hey, I'm calling the police. Yeah, I'm pressing charges on account of you being a pop rock.
Oh, yeah, Ben. A few days in space. It'll be great. What's the worst that could happen?
Okay, will you stop acting like space is a fucking road trip? It's goddamn space! But it looks like a man is about to commit suicide right next to him. What are the odds? The Fantastic Four, bringing peace and harmony wherever they go. Yeah, and the Man of Steel saved Metropolis. And in yet another coincidence, the rest of the team happens to be right on the bridge.
What do we do now?
We're not gonna get past these guys. But you could.
So, you're close. Lose them.
Really? Because I think we could just tell them that we know the guy.
No, you need to strip.
Couldn't you just stretch over them rather easily?
No, you need to strip.
They can clearly see what I'm doing. I don't even think it would
Strip,
even...
damn it, strip! You're half naked and everything else you do, just fucking strip!
Oh god, I thought we were Marvel and not DC.
But whoops, I guess her power stopped when it got to her underwear.
Oh man, I haven't seen a more appropriate usage of underwear since Star Trek Into Darkness. No, really, the movie would fall apart without it. Jesus Christ, this is the most accident-prone bridge I've ever seen! What doesn't cause an emergency on this thing? But the four of them, of course, managed to save them.
Get down on the ground. Get down on the ground now.
Well, the crowd seems to like him, so what the hey? Your popularity equals no arrest today.
But Ben's fiancée doesn't seem to agree. I don't care if you saved a dozen people. You look like a decaying Oompa Loompa, and in my book, that's bad.
That's what they're calling it.
What the fuck is going on, man?
You believe this? Which one of you is the leader?
Who would ask that?
Which one of you is the leader?
I'm just assuming that all good Samaritans have leaders. Oh, I'm also gonna need a copy of your theme song.
We do not know much more than you do at this point.
A new day is done. The day of the Fantastic Four.
So, at the height of their popularity and the whole entire world calling them heroes, what do the backers of Victor's incredibly popular experiment do? Pull out, of course!
Planning to use the publicity.
The board's in agreement. The bank's lost enough already. This isn't a negotiation, it's a notification. We're pulling out. It's too late, Victor.
Do you know how much money I've invested in this company?
Do you know how much I ripped this scene off the first Spider-Man? So they seclude themselves in a building to discover more about their powers.
Welcome back to the Baxter, Dr. Richards. I've got the usual for you. Good to have you back, sir.
Heh, I'm so the Watcher. So they spend the majority of their times figuring out how to control their new abilities.
Any hotter and you're approaching supernova.
Sweet! Not only could you kill yourself, but you could set fire to Earth's atmosphere and destroy all human life as we know it.
Okay, important safety tip. Thank you, we got.
You should be able to bend light around other objects, even people, if you could control your emotional state better.
Wow, a person whose powers is tied to their emotion? I have never friggin' seen that.
I mean, you broke up with me, right?
I was ready for the next step. You weren't.
I think it was a little bit more complicated than that.
I just wanted to share an apartment. What was so complicated about that?
We're men. We just don't do the commitment thing, remember? I mean, Jesus. If Jessica Alba came up to me and said she wanted to share an apartment, I'd of course say no. Commitment, grr, we hate that shit. Ooh, punch testosterone balls, grr. Seriously, you're a stupid fucking movie. But Victor finds out he's starting to get some side effects as well.
I can't pretend to know what we're dealing with here.
We need to keep this confidential.
Victor, this disease is progressive, degenerative. I have to notify someone.
Okay, word of advice. If you're talking to a guy and he starts to go like this, he's probably gonna attack you. Or take a piss. Probably both. But they find out that celebrity is apparently really tough to get used to. Actually, no, they don't. They just wanted another reason for Alba to strip naked.
I can't believe I'm doing this again.
I really thought getting my skirt caught in Better Luck Chuck would be the end of these scenes.
How are you gonna cure us?
I'm gonna build a machine to recreate the storm.
But wait a minute, you can just recreate the storm with a machine? Why the fuck did you spend billions of dollars to go into space then? Was it like eggs versus egg beaters? The universe's version was just a little more tasty?
Oh, you can knock.
Sorry. Oof. Should we just put a counter there? Yeah, apparently the film needs it. So, again, something you might have noticed is really missing in this movie is that there doesn't seem to be that much crime fighting going on. Don't get me wrong, it's important to understand your powers, but in most films it's like a few minutes tops. We're an hour in and all they've done is save a bridge of people that really was caused by them to begin with. I'm not seeing what's so especially fantastic about them.
Johnny!
Okay, it looks like Johnny's finally leaving. Well, good. Stop a robbery, punch out a crime boss or something.
Mr. Johnny, stop!
Or ride a motorcycle and whore yourself out some more. It's what Superman would do.
He didn't.
Oh, yes, he did.
So what are your superhero names?
They call me the Human Torch.
What about the rest of the team?
That's the Invisible Girl.
What about your leader?
I'm 15.
Now I'm gonna go kill him.
Relatively pissed off, they go to confront Johnny about what he's been doing.
Time to go Street Fighter bonus level.
Yeah, that would cut his head off.
Bring it, Burnout.
You two need a timeout.
Not the blockade. He started it.
I don't care. Damn it, Johnny.
Now, there's supposed to be crime fighting in this crime fighting movie, right? Hello? Hello? Yes? Ben ends up going to a bar where a blind woman hears his woes and takes pity on him.
If there's a God, he hates me.
She is not so into hate.
Look, lady, you can call God a turnip for all I care as long as you convince somebody to start crime fighting! But Victor vows to destroy Reed, I guess because he's more successful, and tries to turn the team against each other.
What are you doing here?
I was worried about you.
You know, for a guy who says he doesn't want to be seen in public, he sure is seen in public a lot.
Reedy's gonna fix me up, okay?
I mean, other things more time to sue.
What? How dare that asshole have a personal life? I'm gonna show him by refusing his cure. No, really, that's what happens.
I spent my whole life protecting you, and for what? So you can play Twister with your girlfriend while I'm the freak of the wheel?
That'll show my only hope for salvation. I sure showed me. Pow, 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 pow.
Come!
This shouldn't be turning me on, but it kind of is.
You two are on your own.
Hey, look what the marketing guys did.
It's clobbering time.
Hey, that'll go great with all the Black Widow merchandise. Ben leaves the three of them behind to see if Von Doom can help him out any better. His name is Von Doom!
Do you want to be Ben Grimm again?
Just do it before I remember whether or not I even run a business anymore. Ben returns back to normal, but Victor feeds off the energy he emits to make him even stronger. He decides to give himself a chilling identity, one that involves a creepy-ass mask given to him for humanitarian purposes. Yeah, I remember when Mother Teresa got awarded a chain mace from India and decides to go after Reed. How? By freezing him, apparently.
That's not like you, Reed. After all, we're both doctors.
Okay, stop. I'm just giving you a heads up, guys. Honestly, I'm taking the Corman version more seriously than this. I mean, come on, what do you do? Did you raid George Sanders' makeup kit from the 60s Batman? You're 2 seconds away from the Austrian ice puns.
Let's check in on the rest of the family.
Let's do it before I figure out why the hell I suddenly hate you all right now. Johnny distracts the missile away while Susan goes to save Reed. Fire! You know, you really should be renamed the Mildly Interfering 4. Ben sees the trouble going on, changes himself back, and very unrealistically gets over there like the speed of fucking light.
It's clobbering time.
That's what my toy says!
Damn, I've been waiting to do that.
You and a butt-numbingly bored audience, buddy. So we finally get some real fighting with power.
Look, I'm so nuclear, nothing stupider than proving that these signals are live. I'm wrapped inside aluminum, shooting to the moon, and soon enough I'm about to ruin it. We steady stay consuming shit, I tooted then I booted it. Not before I looted it, check for any food at it. I'm searching for my cue to get dough like a pewter Smith. Lunar G's bring eulogies, how soon can I get it in my pocket? Yo, I build my own rocket, no these suckers don't like it, but fuck them, let's light it. I'm a star like Titan till I strike like lightning. There's a UFO sighting and I'm coming back down. Tell me where we at now, oh, right back fighting on. We the worst weapons in the world, why you worry about another superpower about to hurl? I can see your future, everybody got a nuke. I don't listen what you want, but I gotta speak the truth. We the worst weapons in the world, why you worry about another superpower about to hurl? I can see your future, everybody got a nuke. I don't listen what you want, but I gotta speak the truth. Like laminate, I'm blowing up a planet, I've been planning it, just for understanding it. I got a lot of whoop ass and I cannot be candidate. It's just another rock that you would never take for granted. These new mocks are dropping off in the Atlantic, and it's getting too popular for us to reprimand. It's where we need a new ocular perspective, the advantage. Maybe the top can take a look at all the damage. Stomach and knots, I suck it up, I gotta handle it. I pop into the booth and cast a ballot for the candidate. Gotta have a hand in it. Fuck it if I'm wrong, I just had to write a song. What the fuck is going on? Get a bomb card. Tell the enemies I go all out. Never tread on me, that's a fallout. Hello those who lead, this is a call out. Your work put on the ball just to ball out. Your work put on the ball just to ball out. Your work put on the ball just to ball out. Hello those who lead, this is a call out. Your work put on the ball just to ball out. We the worst weapons in the world. Why you worry about another superpower about to hurl? I can see your future, everybody got a nuke. I don't listen what you want, but I gotta speak the truth. We the worst weapons in the world. Why you worry about another superpower about to hurl? I can see your future, everybody got a nuke. I don't listen what you want, but I gotta speak the truth.
I'm out of range.
lasers, rays, electricity, guys getting hit by buses only to walk out the door. Why is this a thing in bad movies?
Johnny, supernova. I thought we agreed that was bad. Now!
Risking the lives of all humanity is worth it just to save our selfish asses!
But it's contained in Susan's force field, and they end up turning him into a real-life statue, resulting in the city throwing a big boat party. Yes, thank you for saving yourselves, as he was just basically going after you the entire time. Seriously, what was his plan again?
Sue Storm, will you marry me?
Yes. Yes. That's my nose, Genius. These are my lips.
Well, mostly. I've had them done like 10 times.
So I think you can see why, as superheroes, we were so inspired by this movie. All you gotta do is look hot in tight outfits, say a lot of exposition about yourself without actually exposing any character, and only save people if you yourself cause the trouble. The rest of the time, just look out for yourself and flaunt what little you do. Sheesh, I can't imagine at all why anybody wouldn't enjoy this fantastic superhero film. It just friggin' inspires so much.
My god, guys! Cthulhu has risen and he's taking over the world!
You weak, pathetic fools! I come for yourselves!
Nah, I think he'd be a good ruler.
Yeah, everyone loves Cthulhu.
But when he's done with the world, he'll come for you.
This looks like a job for the Adequately Impressive 3! Well, that was easy. What?
Yeah, Malcolm turned him into Xiaoping's head from Hong Kong 97.
Yeah, I stuck with the classics.
That's it! I'm gonna expose myself to that meteorite and actually use my powers to benefit humanity! Out of the way! Alright, you giant sack of space rock, come to me!
Wow, you just became really good at Hong Kong 97.
How come you guys get all the cool stuff?
Because we love you. Hey guys, remember when we were a superhero team?
Surprisingly, no.
Yeah, you'd think we'd remember something like that.
You mean you have no recollection when a meteor smashed into Earth? Gave us incredible powers, forming the trio of the Adequately Impressive 3, and then we just sat around and watched Daredevil on Netflix?
Yeah.
The clips helped us remember.
Why didn't we do anything after that?
Well, we did have that unpleasant encounter with the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, but that was so bad that everyone forgot it.
As they should. But maybe we've forgotten what it means to be superheroes.
What do you mean?
What if we did it again? What if we brought back the Adequately Impressive 3, only this time we did it right?
How?
We'd be darker, grittier, and more realistic, which as we all know immediately equals better. No more pixelator, clobberer, or sparky boom man. Together, we shall be Malcolm, Tamra, and Nostalgia Critic.
Wait, what happened to our superhero names?
We're too edgy for that. We don't need them anymore. And together, we shall become...
Oh, I see. You let the title display our name so we wouldn't have to say it out loud.
Exactly!
That's really embracing our brand with pride.
And enough of this bright, colorful background.
Hey, we're in a dark room.
Our lives are a dark room. One big, dark room.
My God, Critic, this is so different. What are we gonna do with the new us?
This time we're gonna get it right! We're gonna sit around and watch Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Is this a metaphor for something?
How are you guys still not fighting crime?
Quiet, Rob. Can't you see we're brooding?
But you're doing the same thing you did last time.
No, we're doing it in a darker room.
Look, just because you're doing the same thing in a dark room does not mean you're still not doing the same thing!
Of course it does!
Being dark and unpleasant always equals more sophisticated and faithful.
Just look at the original source material. Doesn't that just scream dark rooms and gritty realism?
I think somebody needs to read a comic.
Let me guess. You just saw the last cinematic version of Fantastic Four.
No. Just saw the last cinematic version of Fan Force Day. Fox's disastrous reboot of the Fantastic Four franchise was not only a critical, audience, and box office portal of suck, but even the director expressed his disappointment on Twitter before the film came out. Man, there's ouch, and then there's... This would be the 4th time the Fantastic Four was botched cinematically. And it's sad that with such an impressive amount of failures, the most accurate representation is this one.
What kind of a thing have I turned into? What have you done? What have you done?
Yeah, they get that bad. So, while you focus on what's most important, perfecting your brooding pose, get off of me! I'll start the review. This is Fantastic Four. The film opens with the Fox logo flashing the letter F, similar to how they flashed the letter X before the X-Men films. Honestly, if you want to give us any assurance, you'd flash this. We see a young Reed Richards getting distracted by his scientific ideas at school. Don't you know? American high school is where ideas go to die!
Earth to Richards.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Star Trek jokes always wins over an entire class. We see his teacher, Homer Simpson. No, really, that's his voice actor, Dan Castellaneta. Random. Is not happy with his future goals.
I want to be the first person in human history to teleport himself. It's already possible to transport quantum information from one location to another.
Even if you could build the thing.
I've already built it.
I am also working on a foolproof way to keep Dee out of my room.
The assignment was to pick a real career in the real world.
Why can't you be a nuclear safety engineer, or an astronaut, or mayor, or country singer manager? I can keep going. I've had over 188 jobs. You think your franchise is running on fumes? Phew!
But his friend Ben also seems to be having trouble when he goes home to a dysfunctional family.
Hey, clobbering time. Come here, what'd you think?
Yay, that lighthearted phrase is from an abusive household. But Reed says he can get him out of this movie. I mean situation. He just needs a power converter for his flux capacitor. I mean remake of Explorers. I mean teleporter. Actually, flux capacitor would sound more reasonable at this point.
Don't blow up. Don't blow up.
Oh, what every producer said when this movie premiered. Holy smokes, I made weed! We're gonna be the Fantastic 420! Years go by and the two are ready to try their experiment again at the science fair.
It modulates the frequency of matter from one location to another and back again.
Marge, the eggheads are saying the word things again.
It's a teleporter.
Yeah, whatever, nerd. When are you guys stretch already?
You may want to cover your ears.
The experiment makes the teleport to a location they're not sure of, so there's no proof it actually teleported. But it does result in a sonic boom so powerful it destroyed the basketball hoop. So, hey, that's gotta count for something.
You're disqualified.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
This is a science fair, not a magic competition.
So, magic destroyed the basketball hoop. Jesus, what does it take to impress you, Homer?
It only transports matter.
Well, thank God the director of a government-sponsored research institute working on interdimensional teleportation just happened to be there. No, really, someone must have been eating Lucky's pubes to have that happen.
I think you've cracked interdimensional travel. We're from the Baxter Foundation. We'd like to give you a full scholarship.
I was going to give a grant for that papier-mâché volcano, but I guess this is a little better. They take him to a school so high-tech they can't fully light their hallways as Reed tries to get friendly with the director's daughter, Sue Storm.
So you like music? Is that kind of like your thing?
Oddly enough, no. What, sounds that form melodies? Is that still a thing?
There's patterns in everything and everyone.
What's mine?
You want to be famous?
Am I that predictable?
Well, when you're in this movie, it's hard not to be.
Wait, Victor Von Doom is on here.
Yep, you heard that correctly. This dark, gritty, realistic version still has a guy named Von Doom in it. Because Professor Von Evil Nasty wasn't obvious enough. Nevertheless, Storm is still convinced he should be brought on to the project.
So someone stole my design. No one stole anything, Victor.
Bullshit, you know Borat and Peter Dinklage stole my face. Hell, we even make a joke about it later.
I'm sorry, this is Borat.
Figure, seeing how our box office will be on par with Bruno.
Who's that?
Victor.
Who's Victor?
And why did I notice him when literally nothing makes him stand out at all? Even the shot isn't composed so that you'll focus on him. I'm more likely to think this guy is Victor. This is our villain, folks. Even the movie forgets he's supposed to be important.
Rudimentary.
They do see images, though, from the parallel dimension that they're trying to get to.
It's beautiful.
You can tell by the investment in my voice. They hope this new world can save our current one, as I'm assuming Earth is being drained of its color by FBI's most wanted terrorists.
It's a whole new world.
Which can help save this one.
Not that it deserves to be saved.
Dr. Doom over here.
See, I don't even know how to take that. Was she making a joke or just calling him by his name? It's like calling your bad guy Doctor, you're a monster. There'd just be some confusion down the road. But it turns out Storm has another son named Johnny, who's a reckless troublemaker. In this scene, he is literally never reckless or causes trouble throughout the rest of the film.
Well, you're not getting the car back.
Excuse me?
You're gonna have to earn it. You're gonna have to come work for me.
I'm not wearing a lab coat.
So Johnny joins a world-changing experiment to get his car back. Because, you know, life. And is reintroduced to the team.
Is that Adolf? Long time.
You don't need to make fun of his name. It does it quite naturally on its own. They have their little making stuff montage, complete with doo-doo-doo-doo music. And it appears they've made a lot of progress.
What's up?
I gotta say, it's fun having you here.
Did we miss that part? Not kidding, there has never been one moment of any of these characters smiling except for one shot in the montage where they're eating and not saying a word to each other. Is the movie's idea of building chemistry literally building chemistry?
Look, don't get used to this. I'm just here to get my car back.
You don't understand. We had Chinese food and doo-doo-doo music.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our first action scene. The time has come to test the portal on an unrendered model from Space Chimps. They would have used a real monkey, but apparently sitting in a chair was too dangerous. And it seems to be successful. But it turns out they don't want to use the inventors for the first human teleports. Doesn't that kind of go without saying?
We have to start thinking about sending men.
Us?
I think it's time to start coordinating with our friends at NASA.
Oh, hey, thank you.
The shuttle to the moon wasn't invented by Neil Armstrong. They even make a reference to that later.
You guys know who built the Apollo spacecraft? Went to the moon? But you know who Neil Armstrong is, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, why did you think you were going?
Unless we go first. Why don't we go first? God, this thing works.
Ah, yes, let's screw up a history-making experiment for your egos. I'm sure this will in no way... You know what? Hold on a second. Turn on a light! Sorry, I had to get that out just once. I'm sure this will in no way muck everything up. But in order to destroy everything they worked for, our three scientists need one more to go with them. Well, I'm sure you're all thinking of the same brilliant mind who had such a big impact, Ben. Ben. Because, you know, why the hell not? He has no scientific mind, done literally nothing, and outed himself as so useless that he just left Reed before they even started building it.
Yeah. You're going away, President. I'm just going to school here. Looks like you're home, buddy.
So, of course it should be him.
Look, Ben. I need you to come, because we're going tonight. I told the guys that I'm not going without you. Okay? Who's going to have my back?
Oh, yeah, Broom Handle Arms is really gonna be trouble for any danger out there. Surely he must be drunk.
You drunk? Yeah, I am a little drunk.
Even more reason to do it! Why didn't the moon landing go this way? Houston, I'm so plastered, and I know one chick scientist worked really hard on this and everything, but my buddy owned a junkyard, couldn't protect me to save either of our lives, and
bros before hoes. Scientifically, this has to be done. Hey, look, an asteroid. Let's go give it a kiss. So they travel to this new dimension to discover it's just as dark and bland as our world.
It's amazing. We did it.
Don't you dare take off your Sub-Zero mask. If we come across Reptile in this outworld, we want to be evenly matched. But here's something I bet you never thought they would come across in this movie. Something. Yeah, goddamn something. I bet you thought they would never get to that in this film. My God, Mountain Dew is working on another new flavor. Don't let it touch you, or most of all, drink it! Victor gets left behind, Ben is covered in Cadbury eggs, and Sue, despite not being there, somehow gets affected as well. Sorry, babe, it's one small step for man. You just get our gamma farts. Life is fair. It turns out Reed can now stretch incredibly far. I dare even say we call him Mr. Fantastic. No, just kidding. That'd be just like a comic book. Boy, the origin story for Flame Princess is a lot more intense than I thought it'd be. Sue, of course, gets invisible powers, and Ben looks like an uneaten rockbiter Cheeto.
Reed, what happened to me?
I don't know. But I'm gonna figure this out. Shit! Ben, I'm coming back for you, I promise!
And by come back, I mean abandon you, not help you in any way, and never return. Theirs is a complicated love. Hey look, a dark room. I haven't seen that yet.
Where is Reed?
Reed's gone. You want to find a cure? We have resources here.
Okay, so this is particularly interesting. We just got done with a scene showing pretty much what Ben looks like. A cookie turd shit out by the rock monster from Galaxy Quest. Yet for some reason they keep his identity a secret here, even though we clearly already know what he looks like. The rooms being dark have already been pretty pointless, but this movie found a black hole of pointless. Like there's already no point, and yet somehow it creates even less of a point. Is it too late to call them the all-around uninteresting Dark Blur 4? To make things even stranger, we're almost at the 1 hour mark, and only now have they changed into their hero forms. Most of them just woke up, and suddenly it's 1 year later, Ben is fighting for the army, Johnny has just figured out how to shoot fireballs, Sue can turn herself and other things invisible while also creating force fields, and they want to harness this power so they can go back to the parallel dimension to get even more powers. Now, you think I'm paraphrasing there. What'd it take? Maybe a minute for me to say? It takes the movie the exact same amount of time to get all that information at you. Yeah, most of the superhero stuff is done in 1 goddamn minute. And it's not even in the forefront. See Ben doing all this cool action stuff? Well, it's not nearly as exciting as watching it in the distance with a bunch of lifeless douchebags sitting around. We finally get some friggin' action, and it's not even the focus. Well, how would you like it if an action scene in The Dark Knight was from a distance being watched by somebody else?
Here's your coffee, Mr. Fox.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, is that...
Batman fighting the Joker? Yes.
Does that somehow seem less dramatic to you?
You're quite right. Hold these. Ah, much better. Sippy, sippy. Now this is exciting.
But don't worry, if this is too much out of your comfort zone, fear not, we go right back into talking in dark rooms again.
What if it takes more time to get it right? We could be talking years.
I am not going to be a tool.
The movie strongly disagrees. But it looks like Reed has been missing for a year too. Yeah, sure is hard to track a butt-naked scientist with no military training. However, he's eventually found by the army who bring Ben in.
Oh my God, Ben.
So, this is where you've been hiding out.
Hey, where's your thing? I just thought of a good name for you. Whoop! Okay, finally we're gonna get some action. Well, that was short. Oh, wait. Out of the magnitude of variety we've had in this film so far, let me take a guess. A wild goddamn guess. What's coming up next? Oh my God! Why is this fantastic? Why is this fantastic? Your goddamn movie is called Fantastic Four, and you can't even get one fantastic thing in it. Why is talking in a goddamn dark room fantastic? What? Did you have an upbringing like the boy from Room? Is this literally all you know? Was the outside only explained to you in pictures and stories? If so, could you tell one of those stories? Because it's goddamn more interesting than this horse shit! Ah! An outside scene! Take it away! Ah! That's better!
Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't come to the science fair that day?
We could have been sitting in a dark room with table lamps. Table lamps!
Reed is back. We're closer than we've ever been before.
Closer to what?
The end credits. We can finally star in real movies again. They return to Planet Burnt Brownie, where they discover Doom is alive and well. Hey, trust me, as long as this movie is still going, Doom will always be alive and well.
You want to know how I survived? That place gave me strength.
Okay, I know it's a comic book adaptation, there have to be some changes, but what is with Fox's obsession of turning Marvel characters into Slipknot crash test dummies? Is this the one design they think exists? It's getting a little old. Hell, it was never that interesting to begin with. This movie really is the master of throwing boring, uninteresting things at you in a movie that's called fantastic. Christ, what do you think their design for the climax is? That friggin' portal in the sky cliche? Nostalgia critic? Nostalgia critic! Oh.
Do you remember Chi-Town, Mr. Critic? It'll be spring soon, and the orchards will be in blossom. And the birds will be nesting in the hazel thicket, and they'll be sowing the summer barley in the lower fields, and eating the first of the strawberries with cream. Do you remember the taste of strawberries? No, Rob. I can't recall the taste of food, or the sound of originality. I'm naked in the dark. Ew, a dark room, just talking and talking, doing nothing but talking. With that cliche, that portal, staring at me. I can see it with my bored eyes. Then let us be rid of it, once and for all. I can't carry that cliche, Mr. Critic, but I can carry you. Or, you know, you could just finish the damn review.
Yeah, I guess that's an option. Yeah. This was weird. What we just did right here.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you might be wondering, where the hell did this destroy the world thing suddenly come from? Especially from a guy with such a cuddly name like Doom. Well, I'll give this movie some credit. Instead of having a huge exposition dump in 1 minute like before, this movie gives us at least 20 seconds more. Yup, in that short amount of time, he says that his life cycle is tied to that world, that he believes our world will destroy it, so he wants to destroy ours before he can get the jump on his world, and...
Who cares?
Thank you, clip from the obscure movie Screwed. You're right. Moving on. It looks like Professor Storm gets murdered. Oh, that just looks weird without a Jim Carrey song number going on. And our hero... Sorry, it was only 2 syllables and I still couldn't say it. These guys tried to stop him from sucking the world into his dimensional bullshit. Suck. But Victor is too powerful and figures out ways to stop all of them.
Victor, don't do this!
There is no Victor. There is only Doom.
I'm not wasting the clip on you. But the Fantastic Boar eventually get the drop on it.
Alright, it's clobbering time!
Yeah, in the context of the movie, that line really should be, what my brother said before he beat me up still lacking relevance! Yay, we did! Whatever we did!
We'd like to continue our existing relationship.
We don't need you or anybody else to keep an eye on us.
We just want a place where we can work.
And what if we say no?
Say yes. How much space are we talking
Okay,
about?
I am actually so disinterested in what's going on. I am actually more curious in who took how many rolls from that plate. Okay, only Johnny seemed to take one. He apparently didn't finish it. The others had coffee, but nobody drank their water. Dude, that guy was on fire. I think he would at least have some water. These are the biggest concerns I'm coming out of this movie with. So they're given their own location to continue to test out their powers because Lord knows we haven't seen enough of that in these movies, as they seem to interact off each other.
I think that the four of us should have a name.
Why would we need a name?
Because we're a team now, and there's four of us, so we should come up with a name for it.
How about two guys, a girl, and the thing that nobody wanted?
Hey, we both know that you could take him.
Jesus, I'm beginning to see why you didn't give them personalities. Their relationships to the roles was more interesting.
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Guys, I got it.
Oh, we didn't have to say it out loud, but you still had to take a movie with a guy named Von Doom seriously. Piss off. And that was Fan Snorestick. It's bad. Really bad. The other Fantastic Four movies fail too, but at least they fail in an over-the-top way that at least try to embrace the look and corniness of the comic. It's like it's ashamed to have anything to do with Fantastic Four or comic books in general. In fact, when you add them all together, the Hammer film is still the only one where they choose to fight crime, and they're not the ones who cause all the destruction they're fighting against. How does that happen? How does that happen in 2 reboots you're trying to make better? All I can say is there's a right way and a wrong way to do dark, gritty comic book material.
It was basically Mila gaslighting Adriana the whole time. Basically saying,
wait for the tweet if you want information. Why are you going Why are you going before the tweet comes out?
Because we didn't know anything. We barely even knew that there was a tweet.
That's not your business to know. That's not your business to know.
When your best friend is getting canceled, man, I'm sorry you want to act. I'm sorry you just want to act.
That
This is my
act is
best friend and I
inappropriate.
care.
The act is inappropriate. And what do you mean, best friend? You care, Ms.
I do care.
You were in a situation.
You know how hard it is to be
Ms.
with your best friend
I don't
getting
trust
absolutely fucking
Ms.
canceled, and you want to try to make sure he's okay.
Ms. I don't
care about Slick. I
Ms.
do. I didn't say I dropped nukes. I said that you were scared and threatened. That's all I said. That's not dropping nukes, dude.
No,
I
listen.
said you were scared and threatened.
I'm going to read your message to me. You said all he has to do is tell the truth. That's it.
To get things out of
I've told the truth the whole time, and
I know, and they keep.
Dude,
On this call, you've got one set of people trying to paint a particular picture, and on the other side of the call, you've got another group of people trying to paint another picture. Just remember that when somebody characterizes somebody else's actions, okay? Just be aware of that.
Okay, I'm on my way.
It's so it's crazy. Like hearing your voice, it sounds like the normal, peaceful, good times we used to have. But then like watching you on stream.
Yeah, Treen, same for you, dude.
Bro, watching on
the second I join this call, it's like I fall relief and I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
It's literally that simple.
Well, then why do you sit there and do that shit with
Train,
Pokey
I
and
don't.
Hassan? You do.
Train,
huh?
Please, send me a clip of me shitting on you relentlessly with
Bro,
you. I don't, man.
Have you ever had an argument with your girlfriend, right? And then you say, yo, last week you yelled at me for not cleaning my desk up, and then she goes, oh, give me a date and time. I don't have your fucking clip prepared. I don't have a fucking hoard or file of clips ready to give you. Well, what do you mean? I get my chat for the last 2 years of
Bro, you can't listen to.
Finally, we've made it! 3 years into the Twilight-tober Zone, and at long last I get to talk to you about my absolute favorite episode of this entire show, The Obsolete Man. This is a piece of classic vintage TV that is still as relevant today as it ever was. The themes and morals aren't unique, but the execution of this story in every facet, from the visuals to the performances to the writing, are top of the heap for me. It's brilliant from the bottom up. Let's talk about why. Romney Wordsworth functions as a librarian in a totalitarian nation known only as the state. He's called by his government to be judged and is found to be obsolete by the presiding chancellor and the other drones who inhabit the courtroom. There are no books or libraries left in the state, thus no use for Wordsworth. When the Chancellor declares Romney useless and compares him to a minister in the society because he says the state has proven that there is no God, Wordsworth argues the opposite.
No man is obsolete.
Regardless, Romney is sentenced to liquidation within 48 hours. Through the rules of the state, he's allowed to choose the method of his execution and when within the 48-hour period it will occur. He decides, and is allowed, to tell an assassin the way he'd like to die, while keeping the details to himself and his state-appointed executioner only. Another appeal he has is that his death be televised for all of the state to see. His pleas are granted, and the following evening, Wordsworth waits in his room for the end. As a last request, 45 minutes before his death at midnight, Romney asks to see the Chancellor, so the judge visits the condemned man in his room. The Chancellor expects Wordsworth to beg for his life, but instead, he informs the overconfident officer of a hidden bomb as his choice of death, and soon he reveals the Chancellor has been locked inside with the librarian. One of the customs of these liquidations is to isolate the obsolete citizen before their death, so no one is around to release the Chancellor. With the whole nation watching, Wordsworth taunts that the state won't be embarrassed by sending someone to retrieve their high-ranking official, and begins reading a copy of the state-banned Bible. It becomes a game of dignity in death. Who will crack under the pressure and beg for his life? Wordsworth and his rebellious spirit, or the Chancellor and his staunch government ideology? I love everything about this episode. There are so many things to say, even outside of my admiration for it. The Obsolete Man is an important part of the series since it was the finale of Season 2. This was the last time we saw this particular introduction, and Rod appeared on screen at the end of the show for one of the rare times. Although, in his opening and closing narrator shots, he doesn't seem to be on set like he usually was during this era. They tried to fit in the camera movement that always revealed him in the opening, but it comes off a little clunky here. For the closing, they wipe/dissolve back to the narrator as he delivered the last few lines. Story settings that involved dystopian, oppressive futures were nothing new in 1961. George Orwell's 1984 and Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 may have influenced Serling here. Wordsworth being a librarian and direct mentions of books being destroyed and outlawed definitely sounds like it derived part of that concept from Bradbury's story. Did this upset Bradbury? Maybe. When we get to the episode I Sing the Body Electric next year, I'll finally dive into Ray and Rod's rocky relationship. On the flip side, you can make a simple argument that Serling was just building off the infamous book burning in World War II era Germany. He often called back to that time period, and since he was a veteran of that war, it's no wonder why. The back and forth debates from Wordsworth and the Chancellor are all incredible. They're essentially debating the worth and definition of humanity and individuality, freedom of expression and religion, pursuit of knowledge and critical thinking, the effect of a tyrannical government's rule over its citizens, and more.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am a human being.
You're a librarian.
I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Delusions, the narcotics that you call literature, the Bible, poetry, essays of all kind, all of it an opiate to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all.
This is the Twilight Zone at its best, as it's all accomplished in a very digestible manner, making the situation just exaggerated enough to not have it feel like we're being beat over the head with the messaging. While those morals aren't subtle in The Obsolete Man, they're implemented in an entertaining and compelling way, leaving the viewer's minds more open to absorb the material. In addition to the knowledge that books can bring to the masses, religion becomes a central theme.
Since the state has proven that there is no God.
There is a God.
The state has proven that there is no God.
You cannot erase God with an edict.
Later in his room, Wordsworth reads from the Bible as the clock ticks down to his demise. This has a double meaning in my interpretation. Since it's been banned for over 20 years and a crime punishable by death, he's throwing its words in the Chancellor's face. It's an act of defiance. But he's also trying to get the state official to crack under the weight of their impending deaths. Many people would turn to some kind of faith in that situation, some kind of hope against hope that we'd survive the scenario. That's part of what makes us human. Romney is showing the Chancellor that he's not some higher power unto himself, and the state is not a replacement for God or the natural order of the universe, or however you want to define it. What's really clever about Wordsworth's plan is that the whole nation is seeing the ideology of the state crumble under humanity itself.
Let the whole country see the strength of the state, the resilience of the state, the courage of the state. Let the whole country see the way a valiant man of steel faces his death.
The Bible verses we hear Romney read from in the montage are all from the Book of Psalms, and they weren't chosen extemporaneously. He starts with Psalms 23, a well-known passage.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me.
This establishes the confidence Wordsworth exudes as a man of faith. He's truly not afraid of death in this moment because, among other reasons, with his last act, he believes he's making a righteous stand against his oppressors and exposing them to be the same as the people they hold down. As he mentioned earlier,
death is a great equalizer.
The second passage read is from Psalms 59.
Defend me from them that rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from the bloody men.
This is about asking God to protect the innocent who are under attack and punish those who do unprovoked harm, a clear parallel to what the Chancellor and the state have done to the population of this nation. Next is Psalms 14.
The fool has said in his heart, there is no God.
The Chancellor's denial of God's existence and the consequences of that denial are hammered home by Wordsworth here. Finally, Psalms 130 finishes the show's readings.
Lord, hear my voice. Let thine ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications.
Not a lot of it is read, but there is a bit of hope here. Crying out to God, asking for forgiveness, waiting for redemption. Considering what follows, it's appropriate. And I think that all leads to what Wordsworth is attempting to get out of this set of circumstances. Dignity in death, and how that's delineated in this scene. Romney is resigned to his fate and accepts it with grace. The Chancellor? Well, we'll get to that in a few minutes. I can't understate how amazing the performances were in this episode. Burgess Meredith gives one of the best of his whole career and speaks Serling's sometimes wordy prose with an effortless elegance, inimitable poise, and cunning charm. He knocks out a towering grand slam as Wordsworth.
You cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
It's also funny how Meredith continued his association with books in the Twilight Zone, considering he played bookworm Henry Bemis in Season 1's classic Time Enough at Last. Brilliantly playing off Burgess was Fritz Weaver as the Chancellor. This character was a total 180 from the heroic William Sturka in another Season 1 classic, Third from the Sun. Being his only 2 Twilight Zone appearances, these installments really showed off his range, portraying a believable protagonist and antagonist in different stories.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth, that you inject into your veins with printer's ink. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
You can see he's drawing from some real-life dictators when he's orating behind his podium. The defiance of Wordsworth begins to get under his skin in that scene, but it's not until he trades barbs with Romney later that we see a more personal side.
You've got a worthless, miserable little life, but you've also got an instinct for survival. You're not facing the camera, Mr. Wordsworth. You're cheating your audience. They want to see how you die. Face the camera. That's right. And don't stifle your emotions. If you feel like crying, go ahead and cry. Or if you want to plead by all means. Some high state official might take pity on you.
It's a multi-layered characterization that gets better as the story proceeds. He was able to show off a wide range of emotions and excelled at all those sequences. Weaver was just the perfect foil to Meredith's lead. In a smaller role, Joseph Ellick does a nice job as the subaltern. He represents the cold rule of the state with his 1,000-yard stare and emotionless delivery.
Romney Wordsworth, step back to await the finding of this board.
His voice was supposedly based on Senator Joseph McCarthy. Elliot Silverstein made his Twilight Zone directorial debut with The Obsolete Man. He had a background in theater that translated well in this episode, with that opening scene in the courtroom as the prime example. Everything is huge, and it looks like a stage play set. Just a massive room with harsh shadows, 25-foot tall doors, a single long table, and a giant podium for the Chancellor to stand behind. It's probably my favorite set from the whole show. According to an interview with Silverstein, those doors were the tallest ever built for a TV show at that point. You can see the influence of German Expressionism here. It's not as stylized as something like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but one could draw the comparison. The creative visuals continue in Wordsworth's room, where we get a great-looking montage of time ticking down to the bomb exploding. It's perfectly paced out and creatively edited. Speaking of editing, Silverstein had a big problem with this episode's editor, Jason Burney. We'll talk about that after the twist. After an agonizing 30 minutes and no one coming to save him, the Chancellor pleads with Wordsworth to be let out of the room.
Please, please, let me out in the name of God. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.
Yes, Chancellor, in the name of God, I will let you out.
Wordsworth gives the Chancellor the key to escape with a few seconds to spare. From the stairs below, the official sees the room explode, killing Romney inside. Sometime later, the Chancellor enters the courtroom and discovers that he has been removed from office and declared obsolete for being a coward and disgracing the state.
You are obsolete. Obsolete. You are obsolete.
When he attempts to run, the people nearby turn into a mob and violently swarm him. He's consumed and torn apart, ending this story on a terrifying note. Silverstein had the people who surrounded the Chancellor start a slowly rising wail that increased in intensity until Weaver's character began running.
I want to serve the state.
He conceived of this guttural, disturbing noise through a dream he had had. It was very important to him to have the full sequence in the show, but Silverstein and Jason Burney disagreed heavily on the cut of the final scene, to the point where Burney refused to edit it the way the director wanted. Producer Buck Houghton, trying to please both parties, made a compromise, but the resulting cut still wasn't what the director wanted. So he decided he was going to do something about it. Silverstein got together with other Twilight Zone directors like Buzz Kulik and Lamont Johnson and shared his experience, which the other directors had also gone through a similar version of. Together, they put new rules in play with the union, where editors couldn't do something like that again. They'd instead be fired on the spot, giving the directors more power and say over the final cut of their projects. While I believe the Silverstein idea of that scene would have included more of the wailing, I don't think what we got lessens how creepy it turned out. It is an uncomfortable final sequence that sees the Chancellor begging for his life. His faith in the state has failed him, and the mob that encircles the former official feels like a visceral nightmare. Weaver again kills it with his confidence switching to pleading, an impeccable and versatile acting job that created one of the most memorable antagonists in the series. A couple of other quick notes that I found.
Marcia.
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 Are you ready?
I don't know.
I wish I could do this every year.
As you wish. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Twilight-tober Zone has returned. Thanks to all your excitement and feedback over last year's coverage, I'll be reviewing the next 31 episodes of this classic sci-fi anthology series. As we finish up Season 1 and move into Season 2, we'll discuss how the show grew and changed in its sophomore year. From Rod Serling appearing on screen at the beginning of every story, to the infamous handful of videotaped installments, there will be much to break down and talk about. A few fan-favorite episodes are in this batch too, including Eye of the Beholder, The After Hours, Night of the Meek, and The Invaders, along with some gems you don't hear about as often, like Nervous Man in a $4 Room and The Howling Man. We'll get into more behind-the-scenes information from Mark Zickry's The Twilight Zone companion book and tell you how some of these classics came into being. Just like last year, I'll be revisiting 31 episodes of the original series throughout October. That's one video per day, all month long. Make sure you tune in as we continue this journey together, traveling deeper into the heart of the Twilight-tober Zone. Welcome one and all to the beginning of Twilight-tober Zone 2021. We're starting this year's marathon with an episode that many critics and fans remember well and praise abundantly, that being A Passage for Trumpet. This was the first of 4 episodes starring Jack Klugman. He's tied with Burgess Meredith for the most lead character appearances in the series. It also featured the debut of John Anderson, another actor who'd show up a handful of times, and was directed by Don Medford. Medford returned to the Twilight Zone to helm 4 more installments, including one with Klugman. This also wasn't his first foray into the genre, as he directed 30-plus episodes of Tales of Tomorrow. For more information on that show, check out last year's review of What You Need. In A Passage for Trumpet, a down-on-his-luck alcoholic musician named Joey Crown has hit rock bottom. None of his old friends want to play with him anymore because of his drinking, but Joey says the only time he feels worthwhile is when he's drunk. After selling his trumpet for booze money and going on another bender, he attempts to commit suicide by jumping in front of a truck. When he wakes up, he doesn't recognize any of the people in the neighborhood, and none of them react to his attempts at interaction. Thinking he's a ghost, Joey wanders around until he meets a man who can actually see and hear him. This man also plays trumpet, and informs Joey that what he's experiencing isn't exactly what it seems. This episode all hinges on the likability of Jack Klugman's portrayal of Joey Crown. Most notably known as Oscar Madison in the Odd Couple TV series from the 1970s and other projects like the classic film 12 Angry Men, Klugman plays an earnest, very authentic-feeling character in his first trip to the Twilight Zone. You do root for Joey on his journey to find what he's looking for. In this case, it seems to be a reason to live. With Rod Serling behind the writing here, Crown is a character archetype that pops up in a decent amount of his stories. The monologue Joey goes off on at the beginning of the episode has Rod's fingerprints all over it.
I can't even talk to people, Baron, because this horn, that's half my language.
Klugman isn't actually playing whenever the character is shown emitting a few notes, but he did go out of his way to receive lessons, so that at least his mouth position and finger movements would come off as genuine. It's not too distracting, and better than a lot of other similar situations in movies and TV, where the actor is obviously not familiar with the instrument their character is supposed to be an expert in. That little extra effort by Klugman was appreciated, even if he did play with his mouthpiece a little too much. There's a lot of charisma in Joey beneath his melancholy demeanor. You can see where the actor injected life into the character with little spontaneous lines and movements, especially after Crown realizes he's dead.
I'm haunting you. I'm a bougie.
In that same scene, Joey is further convinced he's a ghost by the absence of his reflection in a nearby mirror. There are a lot of different ways this type of thing was pulled off back in those days, but they really went the extra mile in this episode. They constructed a duplicate set and went as far as to cast identical twins for the ticket taker in her booth. As a result, they were able to show more of the mirror for a very impressive practical effect. Now, they did put glass in the frames, and if you look closely, Joey's reflection is faintly there, and on other reflective surfaces in this realm, but those are just small blemishes on an otherwise well-done sequence. There's another well-done standout moment from earlier when Joey is hit by this truck. It actually is pulled off pretty believably. The choice of dynamic and moving shots in combination with the stunt work and those quick cuts made this a believable collision. We had seen this done less effectively in, again, What You Need. In this case, well-executed editing far exceeded sped-up footage. The woman's reaction and that snap zoom really sold this too. Aside from the movie theater exterior, the sets were some of the simplest built for an episode. One of the little Easter eggs you can catch outside the club is a banner for Houghton & Houghton Construction. This was a nice little reference to series producer Buck Houghton. Of course, a lot of these decisions we can attribute to the show's regular cinematographer, George T. Clements. Apparently, when Rod Serling and Buck Houghton were on set for a visit, he exclaimed to them that director Don Medford was making this episode as if it were an hour long. Convinced it was shaping up to be one of the best pieces he had ever made, Clemens tried to push them to make it a two-parter or convince CBS to give them a full hour for the installment, but this didn't happen. Clemens would say that the final piece was cut to shreds. While Medford did later direct one of the rare hour-long episodes of the show, it does make one wonder what we missed out on with this episode. It's already considered a classic by many admirers of the series, so would it have actually been better or too bloated with the bonus content? That's a mystery we'll never have an answer to. Eventually, Joey runs into a man playing the trumpet who acknowledges his presence. Surprised, Crown's offered a chance to play. He takes the man up on his offer, and it's then revealed Joey isn't dead after all. All the people he didn't recognize in town are actually the ghosts, but they don't know they're dead yet. Joey is in limbo, in between life and death. The stranger asks Crown which he preferred, and after some reflection on the positive aspects of his existence, he chooses life. The man compliments Joey on his exceptional talent and walks off, when Crown asks his name.
Call me Gabe.
Gabe.
Short for Gabriel.
With that, Joey wakes up on the sidewalk unharmed, is given a few bucks by the driver to not report the accident, and buys his horn back. Later, we see him up on his roof playing when he's approached by a woman named Nan. New to the city, she asks if Joey can show her around, and we end on a happy, fulfilled note. First off, in my probably unpopular opinion, John Anderson outshines Jack Klugman in just his one scene as Gabriel. He absolutely nails the essence of an unthreatening, helpful guiding force. It's very hard to do that without coming off as insincere or contrived, but from every line read to minute facial expression, Anderson embodies a welcoming, kind, and thoughtful divine manifestation.
It's a nice talent you got. To make music, move people. That's an exceptional talent, Joey. Don't waste it.
The circular light above his head acting as his halo is pitch-perfect visual storytelling. This character was portrayed fantastically in all aspects. By far, my favorite part of the episode. The Nan character, presumably again named after Serling's daughter, is a nice touch at the end of the story. The actress, Mary Webster, would show up in another Klugman-starring, Medford-directed episode called Death Ship in Season 4. Overall, this is a nice little heartwarming story to fit in with the likes of One for the Angels, Walking Distance, and The Big Tall Wish. While not quite on the same level in terms of quality for me, it's still a nice break from the show's signature sci-fi and more prominent supernatural themes. I'd recommend it if you're looking for Rod Serling's take on something like It's a Wonderful Life. And if this doesn't sound like your cup of tea, fear not. We have a whole month's worth of episodes to get through this year as we travel deeper into the Twilight Zone. Mr. Beavis is not a good episode. It's comedically forced, poorly paced, and lacks the depth of even the mediocre installments of the original Twilight Zone series. But there are a few notable details about it. This includes its connection to one of the show's best episodes, Time Enough at Last. I was able to review that one last year, so you can check out my thoughts there, but the character of James B.W. Beavis ties directly to Burgess Meredith's portrayal of Henry Bemis. Let me explain. Rod Serling loved Meredith's work so much after the success of Time Enough at Last that he wanted Burgess to star in a series he was developing especially for him. He wrote the pilot episode, but the star wasn't interested in doing another television series and turned it down. Serling then decided to rework the pilot as a standalone Twilight Zone episode, and Mr. Beavis is what we were left with. Swapping out the M for a V, the character is still a bumbling, harmless, and unfocused person. You can see where Meredith might have excelled in a few of the situations, but if the original script was very similar to this one, I'm not sure even Burgess himself could have saved it. This was one of producer Buck Houghton's least favorite episodes. In Mark Zickery's The Twilight Zone companion book, he was quoted about the installment. Quote, "Somehow it just didn't come together. It was apples and oranges. I didn't think there was any excitement or interest. You just wondered, why watch it?" End quote. Following the excellent usage of an angelic character in A Passage for Trumpet, Mr. Beavis continued that element with an attempt at a more comedic depiction of the archetype. James B.W. Beavis is a scatterbrained young man who's constantly late on his rent, getting fired from job after job, and just can't seem to hold his life together. However, he is well-intentioned, good-natured, and a kind soul. After getting fired, evicted, and watching his car roll into a wreck in the same day, Beavis ends up at a local bar where he's confronted by J. Hardy Hempstead. Hempstead is Beavis's new guardian angel and has been watching over his ancestors for centuries. He gives Beavis the chance to start the day over again, except this time, things will turn out more in his favor. The only catch is that certain things about James will be seen as altered by other people. Essentially, he'll be viewed as a whole new Beavis. Hempstead starts the day over, and while Beavis is respected by his landlord and boss, no one remembers the kind-hearted person he once was. The friendships he had formed with the local kids and neighbors no longer exist, and this leaves James to ponder what's truly important. William Asher was well known both before and after this for directing hundreds of episodes for comedy shows like I Love Lucy and Bewitched. It makes sense that they choose him for a script such as this one, but it obviously just wasn't a good fit for something like The Twilight Zone. Thus, Mr. Beavis would be his only credit for the show's run. Humor can work in the series from time to time, but when a whole episode is centered around it, it becomes a tough sell after hearing that music and seeing that logo. Speaking of which, this and the remaining Season 1 episodes were the only episodes in the first season that featured a different intro. We still haven't reached the show's most well-known theme that starts in Season 2, but this one has a change in music and looks very different from what came before. It's characterized by a close-up of an eye closing, a black line appearing at the bottom of the screen, and a new, more basic logo. But with only a few installments left in Season 1, this changed pretty quickly. You can make an argument that this second Season 1 intro was a bit creepier with less of the dreamlike quality the original had, so that makes it even stranger to see it in front of an episode like Mr. Beavis. You can tell the cast is trying, but the material just wasn't working. Everyone feels off. It's like a Twilight Zone episode of The Twilight Zone if The Twilight Zone was supposed to be an early 1960s sitcom.
Are you serious?
The only thing that's missing is a laugh track. Even the effects don't really hold up. Usually, the crew was able to come up with a practical solution to fit the budget, and more often than not, it worked. Here, though, there's a scene where Hempstead walks through a glass door that was poorly put together and timed incorrectly, so they had to slow down the footage of the bottom layer of the film to make it match. In a better episode, this wouldn't stick out, but here, it's one of the only moments worth discussing. There is this disturbing clock that doesn't exactly hold up very well either, and they even use it as the image the credits play over, so there's that too. There's not much of a twist here. Anyone could see it coming from miles away, but Beavis convinces Hempstead to set things back to the way they were, and James lives his life happily as the clumsy, idiosyncratic underdog he used to be. Except this time with a little help now and then from his guardian angel. Is this one of the worst episodes of The Twilight Zone? Maybe. I don't like using the word worst to describe anything about this show, but this one is definitely an outlier in a sea of great concepts, scripts, and productions. It's a rare miss. Perhaps it's best we leave Beavis with Butthead and leave this installment way in the back of The Twilight Zone. After Hours is one of the creepiest episodes of The Twilight Zone that I can remember. The concept of mannequins coming to life is something I think a lot of people have imagined as kids or even later in life. I know I have. The execution of this one is where it shines most. Director Douglas Hayes was back, and he made full use of the bigger-than-usual set they were able to work in. Cinematographer George T. Clemens utilized a lot of different techniques to bring forth the feeling of paranoia and fear that was at the center of this episode. Anne Francis plays the lead in the After Hours, and she is a real standout, not just among the female protagonists in the series, but of any main character the show had to offer. There was a confidence and self-assuredness to her portrayal that made where this story went all the more tragic. Francis was a pretty big star at the time, and even acted in the Twilight Zone's favorite movie, Forbidden Planet. She did return to the series one more time in Season 4's Jess Bell, which was a vast departure from her role here. This is one of those episodes that was just firing on all cylinders. Let's explore why. Marcia White is searching the department store for a gift to give her mother, specifically a gold thimble. When a separate elevator opens near her, she's invited inside by the operator and taken to the 9th floor. The doors open to reveal an emptied space with no merchandise. That is, except for one peculiar woman who sells Marcia the thimble she's looking for, and knows her name without White telling her. Marcia leaves confused and quickly notices scratches and dents on the thimble. When she informs the store managers about her encounter, she's told there is no 9th floor in the building. Flustered, she passes out in the office area and wakes up to discover the store closed and everyone gone. What follows is an experience straight out of a nightmare. Douglas Hayes directed one of my favorite episodes of this show, Elegy, from earlier in the first season. I reviewed it last year, and that installment, much like this one, still holds up. Hayes helmed 9 episodes in total, with even more classics that we'll get to soon, but I think the After Hours really has a tone and atmosphere all its own. The way everything is shot and lit with an absence of music in some of the most suspenseful scenes helped make this one a choice pick of many fans. While Anne Francis leads the cast brilliantly, she's not the only actor who shines in this installment. Elizabeth Allen has the perfect amount of mystery and apathy that ups the intrigue of the story. The same can be said about John Conwell as the elevator attendant. James Milholland brought a lighter comedic approach to an otherwise very serious episode as Mr. Armbruster. The levity was appreciated. He was a well-known comedic actor who specialized in some almost cartoonish body language and facial expressions. He would appear in 2 more Twilight Zone episodes following this one. Most everything else I have to say about the After Hours is a spoiler, so I'd encourage you to watch the episode if you can before hearing the rest of my thoughts. It's a twist I didn't really see coming the first time I viewed it. Upon being left in the store alone, the mannequins start calling Marcia's name and even seem to be moving. Freaked out, she ends up in the elevator alone that leads once again to the elusive 9th floor. Once there, all the mannequins, including one resembling the saleswoman from earlier, come to life. Slowly, she's reminded that she's actually one of them, a mannequin herself. They all take turns living among humans for 30 days at a time. Marcia had been so comfortable in her role as a real person that she had forgotten what she really was. The nameless mannequin who sold her the thimble then departs as it's her turn to venture out into the real world. This leaves Marcia to somberly transform back into her true state. And the next day, Mr. Armbruster sees a mannequin that looks exactly like Marcia on the sales floor. He shakes off an eerie feeling as Rod's narration kicks in and the episode ends. Maybe not a completely unexpected twist, but it still hits hard. What sells it is Anne Francis's superb acting. We had seen her so sure of herself earlier in the episode that when we have to watch her resign to the sad truth, it creates an enormous amount of sympathy. It was Francis's idea to have Marcia slowly revert to her rigid pose and have her once prominent emotions fall away. The rest of the mannequin characters were played as cold to exemplify their lack of humanity. The climactic sequence that leads to this realization is extraordinarily creepy. It starts with the anticipatory silence of the empty store and slowly ramps up. One of my favorite shots in the episode is when we see Marcia trying to leave the locked floor. She earnestly asks for help as we see her distorted image through the pebbled glass windows. Then the voices start.
Marcia, you remember Marcia?
Climb off it. Come on, dear. Marcia.
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 That's chilling stuff. Her reaction to all that comes off as more believable than some other episodes where the main character goes mad or just loses it. The confident exterior that we watch through the whole episode is peeled away as she turns into a frightened, terrified, and confused mess. It's great work. That big reveal shot at the 9th floor still gets a reaction from me too. The music finally kicks in there and later changes to solemn tones that start to reveal the real tragedy of this story. They use the trick of switching out the mannequin and the actor in the elevator, which is just perfect. They did that a few other times too, and it always worked remarkably well. Those 3 mannequins of the actors were accomplished by using a face cast and creating a head mounted on the model bodies. Credit to William Tuttle, the very talented head of the makeup department who we've mentioned in this series before, and his assistant Charles H. Schramm for the life casts and making these doubles look just realistic enough. This was definitely the way to go, but producer Buck Houghton wasn't so sure at first. Originally, they thought of just having the actors strike frozen poses or covering their faces in wax, but I think most of us can agree they came to the correct conclusion with Tuttle and Schramm's Uncanny Valley dummies. This was another great script from Rod Serling that was brought to its full potential by the cast and crew. In Mark Zickery's The Twilight Zone companion book, he theorizes that this episode was influenced by the John Collier short story Evening Primrose. In that story, a department store and living mannequins both play large roles. But regardless of its influences, this one plays off basic illogical fears and leads to very realistic allegories. Self-doubt, leaving one's home or family, or even trying to achieve more than your peers think you can, while in the end being dragged back down to that perceived reality, all add up to the After Hours, equating to a horrifying, layered tale. So I guess it's a slightly better mannequin story than A Mom for Christmas, but it is close. The Mighty Casey has quite the history behind it. It's so interesting, in fact, that it's more entertaining than the episode itself. Before we get into the breakdown of the story, let's discuss what exactly happened and how this installment of the series could have been very different, for not so good reasons. This episode was supposed to air much earlier in the first season, but as you can see by its order here, it ended up being released as the second to last in that initial run. This was because of extensive reshoots done 8 months after the original production. The manager of the Hoboken Zephyrs, the baseball team in the episode, was at first played by Paul Douglas. They went through the entire shoot and wrapped production. The next day, Douglas died of a heart attack. His symptoms were said to be very visible on camera, with frequent shortness of breath and discoloration. It was to the point where Rod Serling called Douglas's manager to complain. Apparently, he had been known to have issues with drinking, and that was the thought Serling had, but Douglas's oncoming heart attack was the actual culprit. The post-production team cut together a full version of this episode, which Serling showed to the executives at CBS. Rod was understandably uncomfortable with using some of this man's last moments in what was supposed to be a lighthearted comedy. He wanted CBS to not air it and just eat the costs, but they didn't go along with that. The executives also shot down Serling's idea of paying for reshoots with another actor in the lead role. So, Rod paid $27,000 out of his own pocket to hire a replacement, Jack Warden, and reshoot the scenes needed. With Warden now playing the main character, this was not a short reshoot. They used everything they could from the original production, including close-ups of the other actors and wide shots, but everything with the manager character had to be filmed again. In the end, Serling did what he always did and got the job done. We'll discuss the results in a minute, but this was unquestionably the more ethical route to go down, and in my opinion, says a lot about Rod Serling's admirable qualities. The Hoboken Zephyrs are by far and away the worst team in Major League Baseball. Their manager, Mouth McGarry, is pessimistic on the chances of the club's improvement anytime soon. One day, he's approached by a Dr. Stillman, who brings in a young man named Casey for a pitching tryout. Casey proves to be like nothing the manager has ever seen, and that's when Stillman tells McGarry the truth. Casey is a robot. McGarry agrees to take on the humanoid machine as his new ace pitcher as long as Stillman keeps quiet about what he really is. The doctor concurs, and Casey leads the Zephyrs on a huge win streak. But when he's beamed in the head by a ball a few months into his run, the team doctor examines the pitcher. Naturally, he discovers Casey isn't exactly what he appears to be. This is one of the only episodes with 2 directors credited. Alvin Ganzer led the original production with Paul Douglas, but was unavailable for the reshoots. Robert Parrish was then brought in to finish the scenes with Jack Warden in the central role. I'm sure Douglas's portrayal of another baseball manager, Guffey McGovern, in the 1951 version of Angels in the Outfield, landed him this part, but seeing Warden's comedic delivery and dry wit works as well as can be here.
All right, I see.
Rod Serling's strength was never writing for comedies, at least not in the Twilight Zone. But this isn't too bad. It's a very basic premise that's raised a bit by Warden's acceptable performance as the ornery McGarry. If you recall, Warden appeared in another episode earlier in the season.
I made Casey. I built him. He's a robot.
Not a robot!
This guy just can't get away from robots.
Robot!
Right, robots. The Lonely is without a doubt a much better, more memorable episode. The Mighty Casey has a few charming moments, though. The actors do a fine job, and as a baseball fan, it was nice to see Rod take on a story featuring the sport. They even shot this episode at Wrigley Field. No, not that dump. The Los Angeles version that was torn down in the late 60s. Minor league teams played at the park the most, and movies and TV shows used it frequently. When I was a kid, I used to watch reruns of the old Home Run Derby show on ESPN Classic, and they shot at this very stadium during the same time period. So it was nice to discover that little connection. After Casey is beamed by a comebacker, which is not seen on screen, even though they show him get hit in the head earlier, and the doctor discovers he's not human, the commissioner is brought in to disqualify him from playing. But McGarry and the general manager, Beasley, try to convince the commish that Casey is basically human. They decide what's missing is a heart.
How could he be human without a heart?
Beasley hasn't got a heart either. He owns 40% of the club.
That's it, gentlemen. He doesn't have a heart.
Dr. Stillman pledges to give Casey a heart, and he's allowed to continue playing. The pitcher shows up just before a big game against the Giants with a very different attitude. He smiles now, has emotions and empathy. Because of this, he refuses to strike out any of the batters on the other team, which means the Zephyrs get walloped. After the game, Casey quits the team to try and help people as a social worker. Stillman explains that giving him a heart without the experience to understand competitiveness resulted in his current attitude. Creator and creation walk away, but not before Stillman leaves Casey's blueprints as a memento. Inspiration then strikes McGarry, and he rushes out to Stillman with an idea. Serling explains in the ending narration that the team was abolished soon after, but unsubstantiated reports have suggested that they moved out west under a new name with a pitching staff that had stuff like nothing human and won them several world championships. Again, this isn't a strong episode of the show, but I think it deserves some leeway considering the troubled production history behind it. Plus, it has an old-fashioned newspaper montage, come on. It's not one I would go out of my way to rewatch, but if you ever want to take your chances at the plate against the mighty Casey, he'll be waiting for you in the Twilight Zone. A World of His Own features a perfect concept for the Twilight Zone. Written by Richard Matheson and directed by Ralph Nelson, this was the finale of Season 1, both in production and airing order. It capped off an extremely successful debut set of episodes on CBS and assured the show would be back with more soon after, to appease its growing creative fanbase. Gregory West is a well-known playwright who's sharing a romantic drink with a young woman named Mary. Soon enough, Gregory's wife, Victoria, arrives home to catch a glimpse of her unfaithful husband through a window. However, when she enters the room, there's no trace of Mary. Slowly, Gregory tells his wife that he has the ability to speak his characters into existence through his dictation machine. Mary was just that, one of his characters. When he destroys the piece of tape any of those characters are recorded on, they disappear, or, as he put it,
uncreated.
Victoria thinks he's lying and threatens to have him committed, followed by a divorce. Gregory, though, is determined to prove to his wife that he's telling the truth, and the whole situation ends up being much more than Victoria West bargained for. This was the only episode that Ralph Nelson directed, but it was the third that Richard Matheson wrote for this first season. Keep in mind, Rod Serling adapted 2 short stories of his earlier on as well. Matheson was pleased with the cast and direction, having been on set to watch the filming, and enjoyed the end result. But originally, he had pitched this to Serling and producer Buck Houghton as a much more serious episode than the final comedically toned product ended up being. A short story of Matheson's, And Now I'm Waiting, was the basis for A World of His Own, and it had what was described as a more nightmarish quality involving the character and his creations. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a Twilight Zone classic waiting to happen. For whatever reason, it was suggested that he reform the idea as a domestic comedy, and while I certainly don't think it feels comedic the entire time, it works just fine as is. I do wonder what a truer adaptation of And Now I'm Waiting would have looked like as the final episode of Season 1, but oh well. The original short story was later published in a 1983 edition of Twilight Zone magazine. The cast here was only made up of 3 people. Well, technically 4, but we'll get to that. Mary LaRoche played Gregory's creation Mary, and she would pop up in one more episode down the road in Season 5. Phyllis Kirk was cast well as the snobby wife of Victoria, incredulous to her husband's ridiculous-sounding story. Gregory himself was played by Keenan Wynn, the son of legendary comedic actor Ed Wynn, who made 2 memorable appearances in The Twilight Zone himself. Those were in Season 1's One for the Angels and Season 5's 90 Years Without Slumbering. There was something very strange about Keenan's performance, and I couldn't put my finger on it until I looked him up after this last rewatch. It makes perfect sense that he's Ed Wynn's kid. He has some strange, creepy delivery at times, combined with one scene of very believable pantomime. Of course he's the son of a vaudeville star. It totally makes sense now, and I look at this episode a little differently as a result.
You are stark, staring, raving mad.
You shouldn't say those kind of things, Victoria. Then you stay,
There's a point where Gregory brings an elephant to life inside their house to prove he's telling the truth, and the production team got an actual elephant on set for the bit. It's impressive even today to see this unexpected moment. Originally, they were thinking of ways to get around it, including rear projection, but Buck Houghton didn't think it'd look realistic enough, so they went out and got a real elephant. The visual of the animal in the hallway made for an extraordinary sequence. While Victoria eventually buys into Gregory's story, she tells him that the first chance she can escape, she'll have him put away. West feels he has no choice and brings out a safe with an envelope inside. Victoria's name is written across the front as a stretch of tape is shown to her. Gregory says that Victoria is also a creation of his. Thinking he's bluffing, she throws the envelope and tape into the fireplace herself. As it burns away, Victoria starts to feel strange, and soon enough, she disappears. Gregory runs back to his dictation machine to recreate her, but thinks better of it, and instead brings back Mary one last time. Except now, she's written as his wife, and the new pair begin to live a seemingly happier life. Usually, that'd be the end, but we then see Rod Serling himself on set for the closing narration.
We want you to realize that it was, of course, purely fictional.
Rod. I mean, you shouldn't say such things as nonsense and ridiculous.
Well, that's the way it goes.
This had never happened. Serling was always on screen at the end of each episode to preview the next week's story, but he was never actually in an episode before. The addition of Gregory interacting with him was a really nice touch from Matheson as this wrapped up season 1. The only thing that would have been funnier is if he didn't have a voiceover narration following this. Either there should have been none, or the Gregory character or someone random could have done it. Starting at the beginning of season 2, Rod appeared in the flesh at the beginning of every episode. I like this story. It's not Matheson's best, especially following how great A World of Difference was, but the premise, Keenan Wynn's odd performance, the live elephant, and the ending bit carry this one to memorable status. They finished shooting and thus ended production of season 1 in April of 1960, but it wouldn't be long before everyone was treated to more of these twisted tales. The Twilight Zone's second season kicked off with King 9 Will Not Return. Naturally, since it was the second season premiere, there's quite a bit of background on the production. This includes the actual event the story was based on, the main actor's involvement in the show, how the episode was received, CBS's budgetary concerns, and more. After winning numerous awards, including an Emmy for Rod Serling's writing in 1960, this series was riding high heading into the debut of a new set of episodes. The fan base was large and engaged enough to send in dozens of story ideas every week, purchase books and other merchandise based on the show, and they even started to recognize Rod in public. He had been known by people within the industry because of his other mainstream work, but The Twilight Zone gave Serling a new level of fame with the average Joe. The show's return was heavily publicized after CBS announced its renewal on May 11, 1960. Fast forward to September 30th of that same year, and the hotly anticipated...
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
What's up, dude?
What's going on?
Just watching a movie, chilling.
Oh shit, you're watching a movie.
You get a helicopter and, no, don't put me on hold. Oh, God. I can't die out here. Oh, this wasn't the plan. After this comedy, promised myself I would only do real movies about the human condition crammed with social relevance.
There's nothing but a big rock for 10 miles in that, and that direction, so... Say we go that way.
Say, who are you kidding here? We're goners.